And we are live. Good late evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey's Late Show. I'm your host, Kerry Arnold, and I'm all by my lonesome tonight. Brad had some family stuff to do. So I decided I would do this one right by myself. Got a great show planned for you tonight. Our guest, Red River Cryptid, is with us. It's James, his brother Terry, his son Nate, Lynette, and Gene. You guys are actually at Lynette and Gene's house, correct?
Yeah. Up at
Okay.
Lake Ten Pillar.
Yeah, everybody here is in the same house, but to get them all on there, we just sent the link to two different laptops or phones or whatever you guys are on. But we got you all on here, and it's going to be a great show. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone it's a family show. Please keep it clean for us. We do appreciate that. And I'm going to show you guys something that someone sent to me. Bentley Bennett. He is 10 years old. He watches the show. He sent us this from Pigeon Forge. And I think behind the lens, I think is a place, but that's Bentley right there. And I hope he's watching right now. He sent us that. What a very cool picture. Thank you, Bentley, for sending that in to us. That's a good friend of mine, Zach, his son, that's the guy that I grew up with. But can everybody see that?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I want to make sure I got that right. But he's 10. He watches the show all the time. So when I say kids are watching, there you go. There's one right there. So, and Dixie Dobbins is another. Our good friend Jason, his daughter watches all the time. But thank you, Bentley, for sending that in. And any other kids want to send in some pictures, feel free. We'll post them right up here on Bigfoot Odyssey. All right, well, let's get into it. Now, James, you had started researching in a place that I've been, and we went and shot an episode there in Brown Springs, and you've got some pretty interesting evidence out of there so far. What was it that that prompted you to just want to even go out there?
Well, about 7 or 8 months ago, I went up and looked at a piece of property up in Oklahoma on the other side of the Red River, and I live kind of north of Dallas. I didn't have anything to do that day. Nathan came along, my son Nate came along with me. And when we got up there, it was fairly close to the Red River. And as you know, we kind of parked, it was very rural. I parked the truck and got out, and we were walking into the piece of property, and I looked down in the sand, and there's a footprint. And we're looking around trying to figure out where, a bare footprint came from way down, where this property was. We got to talking about it. We're like, how far are we from the Red River? Couldn't be more than a mile or two. We went and ate at a little cafe, and we started talking. Who was it that did a documentary? Oh yeah, Bigfoot Odyssey did one at the Red River. We're literally at the cafe. We pull it up on the phone. We're trying to figure out where it was. We hear, within a few minutes, Brown Springs, Oklahoma. He looks at me and goes, "Hey, you want to go? It's on the way home." And I go, "Well, sure, let's go." So literally within a few minutes, we're on the freeway coming up, on the exit. He goes, "Hey, it's right here." So we pulled down in there, and I'd seen the documentary, but it had been 4, 5, 6 months before. I didn't really remember a lot. And I just wanted to see what it was about because the documentary was really interesting. It was spring, so it was much more lush then. It was kind of sprinkling when we got down in there. But we immediately, when we pulled down in there, and there's a place where you turn on a long dirt road and you have these fields on your right-hand side, we immediately saw something at the end of the field against, it was the background. We saw a dark figure in the field. And we both looked at it through the truck. And he goes, "You see that?" "Yeah, I saw that." And we started filming it. We got down there. We filmed it 3 times. Stopped the truck. By the time we got down there, it was gone. Got out of the truck. We heard running in the woods with water because it was raining. We could hear splashing in the water. Something coming up on us. We're taking pictures. We're getting things in those. We're hearing whistling. And it was pretty creepy. We went home, decided, you know what, let's go back down there next weekend and really take a real good look. We then watched the documentary again, and I saw that exact spot in the documentary where you saw something at the end
I
of the field.
did.
We saw the exact same thing.
As
In
soon
fact,
as
we've
we
got
pulled
pictures of
down
it.
there, as soon as we pulled down there, there's that field on the right, and then
Right.
that's where it ends. And you, if you can go, you can drive further if you dare. I didn't, and I had a 4-wheel drive truck. But standing about halfway, I thought it was a burned out stump or something. I just kind of got a glimpse of it. Something didn't look quite right about it. I looked back down, and I was going to say something to D about it. And I looked up, and it wasn't there anymore. And that's when I mentioned it. And he mentioned seeing the same thing too. So that was the creepiest place, I think, aside from, I think I would put it equal with the Omaha reservation as being just creepy place to be.
And then rewatching the documentary and then seeing that, and it was like, I started comparing. That's when you're in the documentary saying the drone footage. I go, that's the field we were in. That's what we saw. And I think I sent you pictures of where we snapped that picture. And
yes.
So we go back the next weekend, really not, we kind of know, okay, something's there. And, my son, Nathan and I went up there, and we were going to spend all day. We get up there, we go all through, different places. We're out in the woods. We're all over. We're hearing things. Here's some tree knocks. We're hearing owl sounds that aren't owls, where they just go, whoo, they don't, in the middle of the day, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We found like a tree structure. And the whole time we're like, I don't know. What do you think? And the more we're there, the creepier we are, yeah. We started to leave, and we come out. There's a little spring that runs across under the road there. It's real pretty. And we go across this spring, and I go, hey, you want to go back and look at that spring? He goes, yeah. So we turn right around the road about 100 yards up, come right back to that spot. And as soon as we get there, open the door to the truck, and there was a lot of water up underneath this tree. And honestly, I was trying to take pictures to prove to him how creepy this place was. And it's like, you won't believe this place. So I had my phone out, and I was kind of down in there. I didn't have it on, but I had it out. But I got out of the truck quickly and ran kind of right up there. Meanwhile, he's behind the truck. And I mean, the largest animal that I've ever heard in my life sounds like it gets up and starts running through these real thick trees that are about that thick. They're kind of growing up in this little swamp area, and breaking everything that it's coming in contact with. And it sounds like a rhinoceros or a bull. And I turn and look for my son, and I'm like slapping to get his attention, and I'm pointing him like, big, big, big. He's at a different angle. He's down by the stream of the water. He can't hear anything, but he looks up at me, and then all of a sudden he looks into a clearing. I'll let him tell what he saw.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I couldn't hear anything, but I heard him, trying to get my attention. And it happened so fast. But as soon as I looked up, I looked at my dad, and then I saw movement behind him. My dad was probably 50 yards from me, and the movement was probably another 50 yards behind him. So this is probably about 100 yards away, through the woods behind him. So my dad was looking at me, and I was looking past him over his right shoulder. And, I just saw something that was vertical, very tall. I couldn't see the top of it. And it was gray. And now I say that, but when I say gray, I mean more like a silver, like the back of a silverback gorilla, like solid, like silver gray, very tall. Booking it. I mean, it's the fastest thing I've ever seen in my life, running. And I saw it for about 2 seconds, and then it just disappeared. But the thing that was weird about it for me was the color and how fast it was moving. I've never seen anything like that move in the woods before. I mean, that's the fastest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, I'll say this, and I may be wrong, but whatever you saw, whatever color you saw, may not be the actual color of this creature. Just because if that's what you saw, that being a given, and what some of us have, some researchers have done testing on this hair. It could be reflecting all kind of different colors. It could look green, silver,
really?
black. Yeah. It's Mark Zasky did it a little light experiment under microscope, and MK Davis also did it, and then the results were almost identical to what this hair did. It was just like it came alive under the light. So it doesn't surprise me. If you said it was purple, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
It was definitely, it was odd color for that part. There's nothing in that. I mean, I don't think there's anything in North America that's that color other than a raccoon. But it was just it, and we have a picture of something that has the exact identical color, and we'll have to show you. But it was very out of place, very shockingly light colored.
You could feel. I was standing on the dirt road that you drove in on. He was a little bit down below the dirt road at the stream, but on the dirt road, you could feel it running. And then as soon as this happened, we were just shocked, and it affected him. I mean, he worked on a ranch up in Colorado, almost 10,000 feet. You know, he's seen bear, he's seen it all, and it affected him right away. He immediately went to the truck. We got a shotgun out of the truck. I then started filming just to say, you know, I turned my phone on and we're trying to figure out what it is. And he was kind of in shock. I heard all of it, but didn't see it. He saw it, but didn't hear any of it. And I was walking up and down that road talking to him. And from that film, it was about 6 minutes, comes a lot of the pictures that I sent you.
Yeah, I've got a couple of the really good ones that I didn't put them all up there just because some of it.
Oh, I know. It's okay.
Well, the only thing is there's no context, and
I know.
A lot of people can see that and say, well, I don't see anything.
Yeah, I know.
And you're just gonna sit here and be defending it. I know you know what's in it. I believe 100% what's in it.
Yeah.
But the clear stuff that I'm going to be showing here in a little bit, we're going to be talking about. It doesn't surprise me that you got any of these things down there. Now, Terry, go ahead.
And again, when he was saying, you know, he heard it and I saw it, but I didn't hear it and he didn't see it. The reason for that is because that spring ran under the road, and you know that's my passion is fishing. So I was over there looking in the stream for fish and all. But yeah, that's the reason why I couldn't hear anything is because I had running water in my face. You know, just so
you were just at a different angle.
Right.
Yeah.
You heard it and felt it running. So I mean, obviously this was something big.
Yeah.
So I mean, and it, like I said, none of this surprises me where you were. This place is obviously a viable area. Well,
that was the moment that it became real. I mean, because that was it. The rest of it was, hey, we're down here where they shot this documentary. You know, maybe we'll see something. Maybe, you know, what do you think? That's when it was like, wow, there's some huge animal down here.
Well, I can't tell you how good that makes me feel. That I believe we've created a research team just by shooting a little interview down there. Just to me, that's wild and crazy, and obviously it makes us all feel good. I told Linda, and she was happy about that too. But Terry, you were pretty skeptical about all this, weren't you?
Well, James and I have been involved in this for, like a lot of people our age. We're children of the '80s, but we were alive and growing up in the '70s when all this stuff was kind of coming up, and Argosy, In Search Of. So then once we became adults and started getting jobs, especially when all the evidence and all that started getting on the web. So, we've been digging around in this stuff for 20, 25 years. Now, you are right. I tend to take Occam's razor. I want to remove everything before I get to, okay, now this is, this is a Sasquatch. Is it a bird flying in front of the camera? A lot of times James will send me stuff, he's gotten in the woods, and he does get him and Nate both get some good, photos. But at the other times, kind of to your point, I don't have the context. To me, it's just an ink blot. Yeah, I can see a Labrador, I can see a dolphin, I can see a Bigfoot. So I try not to, at times, and we do that together. Sometimes I try to keep my feet on the ground. And then sometimes, I see something and James is like, oh, okay, dude, that's just a squirrel. You really? So, but yeah.
Well, for those of you that don't know what Occam's razor is, the most logical explanation is usually the right one. Is
Right.
pretty much the basis. That may not be verbatim. I don't know, but that's pretty much
Yeah,
usually the
that's it, yeah.
idea. So you use logic and common sense, and I think most people should do that. If you have the ability to do that and not immediately jump to every other conclusion out there and try to debunk everything first, I think that's a really good thing, obviously, to do. But what he took you down there, was it just
Oh,
recently?
absolutely. I was
Well, what happened there?
floored. He's like, so he's sending me this stuff real time, and I was working over something, and I'm just like, and then
He's ignoring me.
after after a couple of photos, I'm like, wow. So I'm sorry. Okay, when we going down there, and then we start going down there, and I'm telling you, I've been down there a couple times. We have different approaches to what we're trying to find. Sometimes we go down in through the woods, down into the wooded area along the river. Sometimes we're working on the sandbars, looking for other things. And yes, the last time me and him went together, it's just him and I. It is a very intense place. There's a lot of activity down there. You don't have to convince me. I believe in these beings. I believe that there's something like this, in places. But down there, absolutely. The footprints evidence alone is astounding. So,
Oh yeah, well, and we're going to show some of these footprints here in a minute that you guys have caught. Is, to me, absolute proof.
He's got one sitting on a sandbar that is, it is taking actually a bit of a distance, but it's at what, 16 inches?
Mm-hmm.
16.
Just as clear. It's something Jeff Meldrum would be proud of. But
the ones I saw, you sent me the link to a video. You actually have a YouTube channel, but it's not public.
Right. I don't do this for. Yeah, I'm not doing this for.
Right.
That I'm just doing it for me. But yeah, that YouTube. I saw the prints from a distance. I knew what they were, so I'm like, okay, here's a video of me when I first found them, and exactly what you see in that video is me walking along, looking at print after print after print after print after print.
Well, understanding how rare that is, not just to find a Sasquatch print, but to find an entire trackway, and you can see in the video these huge footprints, one right after the other, and they're 5 feet apart in a straight line.
That's
tightrope walk in a straight line, and there's whatever it was very tall.
It was a 16-inch long print. It was 7 inches wide, and it had a 42-inch stride from print to print.
That was the one that you measured.
Well, he also measured me walking beside it, because I'm 6'2.5", and my stride was half that.
It was your stride is 24 inches.
Yeah. Well, watching the video, you can tell because you're walking beside them backwards from the direction they came with the camera, and you can see as you're walking. I can see you take 2 steps between every footprint.
Yeah,
what was on the video? If you give me permission to show that video, I'll try to show that video. If you give me permission to show it on here.
No, yeah, that's fine. What was interesting about that is that sandbar is about, I don't know, half a mile long. And I could not find where the prints came on the sandbar, and I could not find where they left the sandbar. Now I think probably the water was up at some point and maybe washed, away where it came. Maybe it came out of the water or something, but they just kind of appeared. They walked along.
That's actually happened a couple times where we find a couple of tracks, and then it's like, how did they get from the shore down to the sandbar, which is water there, or how did they get out of the river onto the sandbar? It's just there's a few tracks. It could be the ebb and flow of the river, but that seems to be an odd phenomenon as well.
And the reason
that thing could have walked for a mile at night through there. No one would have ever known they were there, and it just felt free walking out in the open. And
the reason
anybody would go down there.
The reason I got that one was because of him, because I took him down there and we went down to the sandbar that I'd gone to before and found all these pictures. He wanted to see them. So we went down there and he started playing, well, it could be this and it could be this. And so I went, okay, let's go 2 miles up the river where nobody's at. The water's 45 degrees, probably it's 50 degrees out. Those prints were done in the middle of the night. So who's going to be walking down through there in the middle of the night by themselves in cold weather with no feed? And that's the reason I got that, is to kind of take it to the next level. Say, okay, let's go find some more
With-
remote.
with a foot that looks like that. That's the other
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
But this is what's interesting to me is, and the reason we have Lynette and Jean here with us now is you guys are doing all this stuff, and you've got actual family members that have seen one, and you guys didn't even know it. And that's Lynette. Lynette and Jean, did you both see this?
No. Let me back up just a little bit. So
Okay.
we'll take on Bigfoot, just so everybody knows. I was pretty much neutral on the whole thing. I grew up in California, heard about the Patterson story and all that, and I was like, okay, well, somebody saw something, and you hear about people saying, oh, well, that's a costume, and all that. So my whole take on it was still neutral. So I grow up, I get here to Oklahoma, and I'm a deputy sheriff reserve for Cherokee County, which is where we are at now at the house. And one night we get a call dispatched over the radio. And I didn't respond to the call, but the call was a prowler call. And the lady that called, the dispatcher didn't really want to say exactly what the lady was saying she was seeing. So they just said, there's something. That's how I came across. There's something. And so they think someone is out there. And so the deputy goes out. You can tell by the way he's answering the call and everything. He's looking for a person. Well, he gets out there. They don't see anything right away. Then you hear him get on the radio, and he says, County, I've got something out here. And so he's out walking around with a flashlight and everything. And the deputy gets back on the radio and says, I saw something. I can tell you it was not a bear. It was upright, it was brown, and it was moving fast. And that's all he would say. So you could tell he did not want to reveal what he actually saw, or he either couldn't identify it completely, but in the back of his mind, he's probably thinking Bigfoot.
Have you talked to this deputy?
I didn't get the opportunity to talk to him about it, but that was my first indication that, okay, some of these sightings that they're saying, there is something there, because if a deputy's telling you that he's seeing something and he can't identify it, he knows it's not a bear, it's not a moose, it's actually something that's bipedal, that's running through the back. He's not going to make that up, and especially on a call when he's reporting back to dispatch. So lo and behold, once I married my wife Lynette, and we're talking one day, and we're talking about Bigfoot. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I've seen one," and I'm like, "What?"
And my brother Terry married Lynette's sister, older sister.
Okay, so yeah,
She's passed away now, but that's how the
sorry to hear
connection.
that.
Yeah.
And so where she saw one at the time where we were living was a mile away at her folks' place. And so I'm just like, okay, so now I'm interested, because now I know my wife's not going to make this up. She's not going to. She knows what a Bigfoot is. She knows what a deer is. She knows. I mean, she's grown up, in the woods and everything in Oklahoma, so she knows how to identify her animals. So if she's telling me it's a Bigfoot, she's not making that up. It's a Bigfoot. So at that point, my vision went from neutral to there's probably something to this. So she's got the best information out of all of us. So I'll let her go ahead and
Lynette, tell us what happened when you saw this thing.
Well, where we live where I lived growing up was a real rural area, and we were in the woods all the time, all that, and we had a creek that ran north to south, so east of where our houses were. And the first time that we had I saw Bigfoot was that my sister took care of the kids, our neighbor kids. And so we'd all go up there and everything. And we were up at their house. They had cattle, they had pigs, stuff like that. And we had just got done eating dinner, and my sister was cleaning up. And they had a big window out the east side, and it faced the pig pen and all that stuff. And she was doing dishes, and to the left of the pig pen where it was at, she saw a large blackish red figure that was squatted down behind a barbed wire fence. And so me and the other girls were in the living room playing, and she was like, Lynette, come here. And so I had run over there, and I was probably about 8, 9 years old, somewhere around in there. And she kind of lifted me up on the counter, and she goes, "What? Look at that. What is it?" And I was like, "It looks like a bear." And she goes, "There's no bear. There's no bear here." And I was like, "Well, and I was like, what is it?" She goes, "I think that's a Bigfoot." And she goes, "Go get the phone. I need to call Dad." And so I jumped down and ran and got the phone and came back up there, and she lifted me back up, and we're dialing Dad, and it stood up. So with the barbed wire fence, and when it was crouched down, it was probably about another 3 feet above the barbed wire fence, his head and part of his shoulder. So when he stood up, so I guess me running in the house, so it's about 50 feet away from us is where it was at. And when, I guess with the racket in the house or whatever, it heard it and it stood up. And it had to have been probably 9, 10 feet tall. It was large, and it was a blackish red color, and it took off. And I mean, several steps, and it was gone. And there was a tree line in the back, and it was gone fast. So we called Dad, and of course he came up, and we told him, and they went out. Dad went out in the woods, but other than that, that was kind of how that was my first vision of Bigfoot. So, and he was massive. He was very big.
That was the first one. Let me emphasize that. That's the first one. So also, just for clarification, in case we didn't say earlier, so we're in Cherokee County here, but where she grew up in is in an area called Tryon, Oklahoma, which is Lincoln County, south of Stillwater, by about.
Is that southeast?
Yeah, that's actually central.
Central. Well, from there, southeast, there are so many sighting reports. We've done 2 films there. Actually, we've done 3 films in Oklahoma now. The one we just did with Mark Copeland, 5 miles on the same road as the crow flies that we shot with Bill and Sheila Tucker. I was just amazed at how just this area of where we were, and then David Wilbanks comes down, and he's been researching all over Oklahoma for 25, mostly Oklahoma, but all over the country for 25 years. And there's something about this place. I don't know what it is. East Texas, Florida, Oklahoma. Yeah. And if you fly over there at night, that is the darkest place in the entire country.
Oh, absolutely.
There's not a light. It's so dark. And I don't know what it is about the area. Maybe it's some kind of topography or something. Someone needs to look into that, I think. But no, it doesn't surprise me that you've seen Bigfoot, especially more than once in that place. Absolutely.
Well, it's kind of interesting that Chuck brings that up. I was married to Diane 10 years before she even brought the subject up. But I can tell you clearly as day, one time we were dating at the time. It was a Saturday. And y'all were all gone. It was just her in the house by herself. I think she was waiting for me to come pick her up.
Y'all were in high school?
Yes. Yeah. I was a senior. She was a junior. And I come over. It was, it was a nice day. It's probably June, about 5 o'clock. Still, plenty of light out. But I see all the vehicles gone. So I was like, I wonder what was up. So I park and I walk up to the front of the house. The door is ajar, but the screen door is shut. And I knock on the screen door a little bit and on the glass. And I said, Diane, and she comes back into, you can see through the house. She comes back in from the backyard. She comes down the short little hallway, fully dressed up to go out. I mean, she wouldn't be outside. She's carrying a 30-30 rifle, trying to figure out how to cycle the lever action. And I'm like, okay, this is new. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm trying to get something out of her. She will not divulge a single word. She's well, I just heard a sound, and she just puts the rifle behind the door, and let's go, go now. Shut the door. She locks it. We are gone. And then, the time, it's not until James and I actually play a prank on our children at the time.
I forgot about that.
We were down in East Texas. We're down on Tyler, and we were camping out. And James was like,
So I get this Halloween mask. It was like a gorilla. And we were going to get down there to Tyler State Park and have the campfire. We had a bunch of little kids. They were all about 7 or 8 or 9. And we were going to wait till a certain moment. And I was going to jump, rah, and I was going to scare them. And we were talking about preparing for this. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So after that, and then, we're kind of sitting around the campfire, talking about it. Diane goes, oh, I've seen a Bigfoot. What? And that's when all this starts coming out. And we'd been Bigfooting at that time. Good little while.
Of all the times we sat there and watched Monster Quest or all these shows in the living room, she never said a word.
Never said a word.
We'd talk about it for hours. And Patterson film, is it real or not? She never said a word.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden,
and then she doesn't tell me about that particular time, but I think you, Lynette, were talking about the time they would come up to the houses. But Diane in particular was saying that a lot of times after the girls were finished cleaning up, they take the scraps out to feed the dogs. And they had a well house right behind the house. It was right, 20 feet behind the house. It had a big, tall roof on it. That she was going out there and, getting ready to dump scraps down to feed the dogs. And something jumped off the roof, landed probably 3, 4, 5 feet away from her. No more than 10 feet, enough to where the people in the house heard the thump when it hit the ground.
Shook the house.
And took off running. And it was, she goes, it was about 7, 8 feet tall. It was muscular, kind of skinny, was more reddish in hue, and jetted back off to the creek that Lynette was talking about earlier. I mean, how can you misidentify that? It's literally less than a basketball shot away.
And I remember at the time thinking red. Well, no, Bigfoot aren't red, because we're, everything's Washington, they're black, and I remember that red stood out. And me and Terry kind of looking at each other, giving each other eyes like, you believe in this? I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. But I remember that red. And at one point, you talk about seeing a white one. And so unbeknownst to them, we get on like BFRO and we're searching all the area. And we start right in their area saying, well, there's white ones being seen, red ones being seen. And they didn't even know we were doing this. And I was like, wow. They really did see these things. So.
Well, Lynette, I want to ask you this. There seems to be several different ways people are brought into this. You either grow up with it, where it's just common knowledge, or there's this sudden moment of realization that you've seen this thing and now all of a sudden it's real, or it's kind of on your radar and you go looking for it. There's several of those. So was this just a part of life growing up that you guys knew these things were around, or did you just see this thing and realize, oh no?
Talk about the knocking on the window. You were just telling us.
Well, it was kind of like it was all of a sudden there, and then we kind of realized that, it was there. We would ask Dad about it, he would, we respect them, they'll respect us, kind of thing. We didn't just go talk about it all the time, it was just something, because we hunted, Dad did teach us how to use a shotgun, how to, and if we went in the woods, we did take our shotgun, or we did whatever. I mean, we were taught that very young. It was not, we weren't, we respected them, but we weren't really just completely fearful of them, I guess you could say.
And the neighbors knew. I mean, the neighbors had seen it before too. So it's not like, it's one thing when you see one, but when you have your little community there seeing it,
right?
And there's something to that.
So it was just kind of one of those things that, we didn't really just go to school and talk about it, or we didn't, it wasn't something you sit around the dinner table and talked about. It was just something that happened. We were, my dad and brothers were hunters, things like that. We were in the woods all the time. We got home from school, we were in the woods. There were a lot of times that we were out there. We didn't see footprints really in ditches, and my brother would see one every once in a while, I think. But we didn't. It was just kind of there.
Yeah, something you were aware of that
Right.
that you just
We
didn't
kept our
change
eyes
your
open.
right,
Mhm.
didn't change your day-to-day life, didn't
Right,
keep you out of the
no.
woods or anything, and that's
No.
exactly how it should be for every
Mhm.
single person in this country and every country where these creatures are seen and
Mhm.
behave. This is how it should be.
Mhm.
You don't have to mess with them. Just be aware that they're out there
Mhm.
and
And it's so
prepare
natural.
yourself.
I mean, I didn't believe her when she first said it. I thought she was kidding me because it was like,
I did
this is
too.
just a normal part of life. And I was like, yeah, right. You're just, no. And she's like, no, really. And I couldn't believe that. I was like, and then not only does she tell me she's seen one once, she tells me she's seen one multiple times.
Well, the part that I had the hardest time with is it wasn't that I didn't believe Diane at first, and then later Lynette. It's like, why would you not say something in 15 years? That was the part that at first is kind of, and it's like, but I think I can't imagine being two young girls in a house by with it had to be trauma. But you don't.
It was scary at first, but I don't know. I wasn't scared. It was just my sister looked at me and goes, "I think that's a Bigfoot," and we were like, "You're right." It was not. I mean, now the one jumping off the roof, yeah, scared her to death, scared us, but because they were so close, the other was farther away. So,
Well,
I think the one story you were talking about that in a way illustrates how commonplace it was,
Mhm.
was when you and your mother and Clifford were in the house and something started scratching at the window.
Well,
and you're like, Daddy, somebody's out, something's outside.
Well, no, he was gone. So my mother and I had gotten home, and as you said earlier, it's very dark in Oklahoma, very dark. And so you get kind of accustomed to that. And we had come home, and we went in the house, and we didn't sense anything, we didn't see anything around. We turned on the outside light, went in, did our thing, and all of a sudden we heard kind of a tapping on the window. And I looked at Mom, I was like, "You think Dad's home?" Because we didn't hear his car come in. And then a few seconds later we heard it again. And Mom goes, "That's not Dad." And she goes, "Go call Dad and tell him that he needs to come home." And so I called Dad, and I told him what had happened, and he goes, "I'm on my way." And so he came, and he just drove around. There was nothing there.
No, it's what he told you to do over the
Now,
phone.
now he did he goes, "Okay, what I want you to do is go into the bedroom and get the shotgun and open the door and shoot the gun
Shoot
out
in
the
the air.
door, and shoot the gun in the air. And I will be there as quickly as I can get there." And so Mom goes, "I'll open the door, you shoot the gun." And so my mom opens the door,
I'm so glad
and
I wasn't.
I shoot the gun. And I wasn't shooting in the air, I was shooting straight out. I was not going to shoot in the air. And he goes, "That'll make anything that's out there go away, and I'll be there as fast as I can get there." And then after that, that was just kind of the thing. I mean, but yeah, that's like, "Mom, you open the door and I'll shoot." And so we were just hoping, it'd go away.
Well, apparently it's not common for them to bother and harass you a lot, but there does seem to be a time of year, and maybe it's when food gets scarce,
Mhm.
toward the wintertime, maybe that they like to
And
just
that's
use
when
up
we
whole
would see
houses.
them the most, is when it was a very dry year, or it was very, the deer population, it's usually very heavy deer population around us, but some years it was more scarce than others. And that's when they would start coming around the house, because we would feed table scraps to the dogs or whatever. And we had animals. We would feed hay, we would feed, just grains and stuff. And that's usually when they would start coming in. The one where we saw the white one, and he was white. We had a property across from us. We live about a mile out on a dirt road. And this one, mom and dad and all of us had been out, and we had a big pond also on the property that was to the south of our home, which we could see out of the front. And dad and my brother had finished building a deck out on our front porch. And that day they had gone out and they had plowed behind the pond and planted corn. And so we had just got in, cleaned up, ate dinner, and we went out to sit on the porch. And my brothers and I were setting up the chairs on the porch, and mom and dad were getting ready to come out. And we had looked over, my brother and I, and I think my sister had come out at that point too. But we had looked over, and it's probably about 100. Well, probably about a good 100 yards out, and a barbed wire fence. It was probably about 10 foot tall, somewhere in there. It was a steep hill onto the road, so it was kind of built up, and this barbed wire fence. And it caught our eye because it was white in color. It was very white in color. And we were like, what is that? And it was just moving along, just gradually. And it gets to the barbed wire fence, and we're like, is that somebody dressed up? Is somebody out hunting? What? And my brother it was my brother looks over at me, and he goes, oh, it's nothing. He turns around and goes into the house. And so I'm out there, go back in, and it steps over the barbed wire fence. It doesn't jump. It doesn't do anything. It steps over it. And the next thing I know, dad and mom come out, and I said, Mom, Dad, there was something it was white, and it looked like a Bigfoot. It stepped over that barbed wire fence. And Dad goes, it what? And I said, it stepped over that barbed wire fence and went back down there where we were putting in corn, down there in the field. And he goes, you get in the house. And he went in, got the shotgun, and him and Mom walked down there. And they were back in there. And when they came back, they never really said, we asked them, we said, did you see anything? And they never really said anything. Dad didn't say a whole lot, but he was very large. He was, good size. He was white, and he literally just stepped over the barbed wire fence and walked down the little hill and off behind the back of the pond towards the creek. So
I don't know why, but for whatever reason, there's a multitude of small rural communities that treat these creatures this way. When I was a kid, I can remember people talking about the boogers is a lot of what they were called. I always thought that was something that they used to scare us. But thinking back on all of it, there are a lot of communities around that's just this untold thing. They just deal with them when they're around. It's not like they're around all the time, but it's not uncommon. This thing that you're talking about, it happens in so many places, especially in the South. Go ahead, James.
No, I mean, I'm just right there with you. I mean, that's fascinating to me. I mean, we've spent 30 years kind of as a hobby, as an interest, watching movies and TV shows and reading books and getting on the internet, sitting for hours talking about the subject to come all the way around full circle back over here. Well, yeah, she grew up with him. We could have just asked Lynette. And it's fascinating the dichotomy of that. I mean, that's just
right. Well,
it's interesting. It's not bad or worse. It's just the way. And I guess you probably followed in line with what the adults did. They didn't talk about it much. So
Dad,
you didn't talk about it much.
Dad was like, you respect them and they'll respect you, and, make sure that you're protected. Don't, but we were also taught to, if you were hunting, you only kill to eat. You don't, you're not just, or you protect yourself. That was it. We weren't, that was just something that we were taught to do. And You know, we would go out and play in the woods. Like I said, we were in the woods all the time. Now, there were times that you felt that there was something watching you, you know, or there was some, you know, something around, you know, but it was never fearful. You know, it was just always, we knew, you know, something was out there watching us possibly, but we just never even thought, even we just went on about our way. But we were kids too, so we were just doing our thing.
That family that on the lease that you were on, when you went back and did the doctor, you kind of found that out too. They kind of knew and kind of didn't say much, did they?
Right. They would have all kind of things would go on. His mom and dad at 2:00 in the morning. When we were there, they let the dogs out at 2 a.m. to go pee or whatever. And we had been out there around the fire, filming, talking, laughing. And Brad and I are in the camper, and their house is probably 100 yards away from where we are. They let the dogs out right there by the edge of the woods, and they just go out of the end of it and stop, growl for a minute, and turn around and come back in. So, I mean, just those little interesting things. But it seems these creatures seem to be indifferent enough as far as contact goes with us. It's almost palpable that they just don't want to have anything to do with us. They definitely want to watch us, and you know, their presence being made aware of. I think they know when you know, and then they don't try to hide maybe quite so much. I think it's the only thing that makes any sense to me.
Well, and what I meant was in your documentary, in the time you saw one.
Oh,
you kind of found out later that the deer lease you were on, the family that owned that land, they kind of knew about it and just kind of didn't really say much.
Right.
And so you kind of ran into that same thing as small community.
I had gotten little hints
Yeah.
that I talked to, you know, the old man, Mr. McGee. I would bring the meat if I would talk to either his daughter or his son if he wasn't there. He was in his late 70s whenever I was hunting out there. And I remember talking to him one day and him saying, we don't keep, they had no animals, none, not a dog, not a cat, chicken, nothing. And this is out in the country, you know? And he said, well, we just can't, they don't stay around. You feed a country dog, he's not going anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
He's going to be there.
You can't get rid of him.
So that was probably one thing there. Daniel, the son, had seen it when he was 15 years old. Him and a whole group of kids was walking down the road there and saw one. He said it was like a big gorilla standing there looking at him, and they all took off running, screaming. And even I talked to one of the neighbors when we were there. He wouldn't let me put him on camera. When we had gone back, and I said, "Do you hear strange things out here? Knocking?" So, oh man, we hear the knocking all the time. And I heard one scream. I heard something scream a couple nights ago, about 11 o'clock, and it apparently wasn't far away. So our old field producer Scott Owens had gone back in there and got growled at and heard knocking. So they're still in that area. But yeah, they kind of knew. It's like they knew, but never said a word to me about it. Now, they never went in those woods. Nobody there ever went in them.
I'll give you the opposite of that, and I can probably see why maybe some people do that. Some of the pictures that I sent you from, you know, the footprints where I live, there's a young couple right close to me that just bought a kayak, you know, bought a mount for their truck, and they're all proud of it. And they came back one weekend, and the bottom of the kayak is all red. And I started talking. I was like, "Hey, where are you guys going?" So, well, we went up to the river, and I go, "The Red River?" And they go, "Yeah." Well, I pulled my phone out, and I said, "You know, take a look at this." You know, and they look at it and they go, "Oh my God, what is that?" And I go, "Well, I just found that up at the Red River. Maybe y'all should go somewhere else." And they're looking at it, going, "Hey, is there a Starbucks around here?" I mean, it just went right. I mean,
that's crazy.
After you have 10 of those conversations, you just don't talk to people anymore unless you know that they can kind of understand.
Right.
So I could maybe I could see some of that. I don't know.
Well,
anyway.
it's been so actively, I'll say, disinformed. It's either, if you're going to see anything about it on television, it's either going to be a parody. If you see it on the news, they're making a joke out of it, which is it's sad, really. But you kind of can't blame these people, because to take it seriously in any limelight at all, they're just going to get lambasted and probably lose their job. And so it's understandable, but it's still a sad fact that that if you're going to get anything from it, you got to come to places like this, Sasquatch Chronicles, if you're going to hear, actual encounters. But I want to show this video real quick, and you can just kind of.
Yeah, this was this last weekend or the weekend before? I had literally gone back up there by myself, which I probably shouldn't have done. I will say that probably not pretty wise to do this.
Get full screen going on here. You guys see that?
Yes.
And I had parked, I don't know, mile and a half from here, and I walked probably a mile and a half through the woods, a long trail, winding trail to come out to this location by myself.
Maybe you do realize how rare this is, what you've captured.
Well, again, I was trying to show my brother, which he's the engineer. I was like, okay, well, let's take it to the next level. And I saw these prints in front of me. I knew exactly what they were, so I pulled my phone out and go, okay, in real time, here's me finding these prints as I'm walking along.
One right in front of the other, and that's an odd shape foot. You can almost see that mid-tarsal.
Yeah, exactly.
These are, you can't tell there's no scale. These are the 16-inch prints, correct?
No, the 16-inch ones that Nathan was talking about was the one with the measuring tape in, and they're 7 feet or 7 inches wide by 16 inches. These were about 14.
Still, that's a huge foot.
Yeah.
My son wears a size 18 shoe. He's a 14-inch foot. Is that a handprint?
No, I don't think so. Although I have,
that's a hog. That's a hog right there.
Now, here's another thing. So one of the things that we were thinking about when we first started this is like, okay, so somebody's got their kids down there, or somebody's walking around with out shoes or walking around. But this is a single trackway with thousands of pig prints, hundreds of deer, coyote, all over. This had to have been probably the night before. And whatever, that's a very active area. It's very, I say very remote. It's pretty remote. It's not where campers go. It's not. And, we've been up to this area 15, maybe 20 times. I've yet to see a boat in this area. There's not boaters going up and down this area because you can only go a certain way, and then you have to kind of probably go over a sandbar or whatever.
But the distance between those tracks is I mean, I've got a 36-inch inseam. I don't step that far. not even close.
There's one of the pictures I sent you that has a measuring tape where we, measure the front toes. And it was where he was measuring them, and they were 7 inches across on the front toes. And that was the one you said that they were 16, and the stride was.
They were 16 inches long, but 7-inch from big toe to small toe, and it had a 42-inch stride from toe to heel on the next print.
And we got him to try to replicate it, and he could
nowhere close,
about halfway.
His was 24-inch stride.
So,
and he's 6'2".
Yeah.
6'2".
I'm looking for it here. I know it's here somewhere. I got to go through.
I know I sent you probably too many, but
that's okay. It is all right.
Like I said, I don't post this anywhere. We don't even have a web. The stuff I have on YouTube is just for so they can see it, so I can send him a link over at his house. Right. Hey, look at this. I'm not.
Let me show this one right quick. This is one that you sent me that you talked about seeing in the edge of the field, right?
Yes.
And that's
no, actually, that picture my brother took. We had gone down to the very, very end, and we were walking around. It's the first time my brother went. And actually, he's kind of creeped out. We're all armed.
We get back in there, yeah.
We get back in there, but he's kind of creeped out. My son had basically just got some new slugs for a shotgun, and he just said, "Hey, I want to shoot one of these and just make sure it's on." So we stood at the truck while he did this, and he ran down. He put a 7-Up bottle, by a tree about 50 yards away. Came back. Took a shotgun, took a shot at, hit the bottle. We're like, okay. And he ran back to get the bottle to see where he hit it. And me and my brother were standing at the truck, and he turned around and just started taking a few pictures of behind us. So after the shotgun went off, this was the last picture. And this is actually a kind of a crop version of that. But this was in the last picture he took. This was about 65 yards behind us.
Well, I'll
And
say
it's,
this.
I mean,
Okay.
see,
There's no real discernible form. So, you can't say, okay, that's a
know.
Bigfoot.
I
But
know.
that's not nothing. That's not a shadow. That's not a hole in the bushes. There's
Right.
something there. And it just doesn't, I mean, to me, it's out of place.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. It's not a burnt
And when we went
I'm
back,
gonna go look for those others right quick. Go ahead.
when we went back down to that area sometime later, there wasn't a stump down there.
Yeah,
there
it
wasn't a
wasn't
dead
there.
tree.
It wasn't there.
There wasn't anything there.
There's nothing out there that's that jet black.
Yeah.
I think, and of course, these are my black blobs. Everybody kind of goes through that,
Sponges.
but hey, I'm proud of it. I was there. I know what was going on, and
These things are
and I
hard to
get it.
see.
It's not a perfect picture, but I'm telling you that this place has them. But what
Yeah, they're
the thing
there.
about that one is we shot a gun, and I think one of the theories could be it was kind of in the weeds, kind of wondering what we were doing down there, waiting on us to go. Because everybody who comes into Brown Springs in a truck leaves in a truck. They know it. All you got to do is wait them out. They'll leave here in a few minutes.
So yeah, it's one way in, one way out.
But all of a sudden, when they heard that gun go off, I think it came out to go, okay, well, what is this?
Well, I've got this one right here. Sorry, I'm not as proficient at this as Daniel.
That's all right.
This is the 16-incher.
Blow it up.
That's it.
No,
I didn't get it. Sorry.
That's okay. It's no, that was just one that we caught.
That's not it either.
No.
Okay, I'll find it. I will find it.
It has leaves in it. It has leaves in it.
All right. I think I know which one it is now. But go ahead while I'm looking through here.
And that's a lot of them. One of the, I think, one, and of course, you may look at it and go, I don't see it, but one of the most interesting pictures I think I got was right after we had our sighting, and we're on the dirt road. We're sitting out there talking. At that point, Nathan went and got a shotgun out of the truck. We're walking down the road. Now he's armed. Okay, I wasn't at the time, and we're kind of talking to each other, filming, and I turn around and I start panning the field behind us, and I think I caught what looks to me like one of the males, exactly at the exact same tree where Chuck and I, got a very big print. That print was probably 15 to 16 inches, right at that exact same spot. But it looks to me like it's turned around and walking into the woods. It kind of catches the shoulder blade down, has the back muscles, has the leg. It literally looks like it has a leg that's kind of, and I sent you a example photo of a known one. I think that one was in Kentucky.
Yeah, that was, The only thing is it's Mark Anders.
Right. Okay.
And he's not the most credible person in the world.
Okay. So. Well, when I saw that, I went, wow, that looks, but that's what that one looks like. The other one was the one I think was in the bushes with the red eyes. As soon as I saw that, and
it does look like that.
I went, wow. I didn't touch that other than lightening it up. But it was like, wow. And that picture of that one is literally, that's the big one.
And it's kind of at an angle, but you cast this, didn't you?
No.
When I go out to cast them, it seems like it's either rained or we can't find. So
I got a lot of these I got on my own because, they're both busy, and Chuck and everybody's busy. So sometimes I'm single. I live by myself, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go up the river.
Okay, so since he keeps referring to me as Chuck, my dad and I are both Gene, so the family calls me Chuck.
Everybody calls me Chuck. Yeah. But that one I got by, we had gone back up there the following weekend because of that one, and Terry wanted to capsule. It's like, well, let's go up there. Let's go capsule them. And we casted a couple. And I think I sent you a picture of the bottoms. One of them fell apart.
Yeah.
But even after we cast them, we found more. It's like, wow, I wish I would have cast this one. And that was the first time we ever tried that. We're learning.
And then, of course, you go out 2 days later and find the other one that's just pristine, big. You're just like, oh my
god. When I got the video of the trackway on the sandbar, I walked on a road that was about a mile and a half, and it was dirt. And I really looked for prints as I went. And as soon as I kind of came up on the river, it turned more into sand, really kind of soft sand. It goes over a berm and then down into the river. And I paid very, very close attention to that trackway because that type of sand, it's easy to see prints. I didn't see anything. I went down on the river. I was down on the river for probably a half an hour. I walked that trackway. I got those prints. I came out, and as I crested that little hill, that little sand hill that goes up the berm, right there was the biggest print that I had ever seen. And it was right next to my boot. My boot was coming in the other way. This print was coming back. My boot's 12. And I even, took the label 12 to send it to them. It's right next to it. This print is probably another 3, 4, 5 inches, bigger than that one. So it had come down to that little hill, seeing what I was doing down on the river while I was filming that. Something, with a foot that big came and looked and turned around. And I guess as I started back up and maybe, walked off or something, I never heard anything, never saw it, but it was definitely there. And then one of the pictures I sent you has a little square. It says boot, and then the print's right there in the sand next to it.
I've actually it's in the same one with these that you actually did.
Yeah, those are the ones we tried to cast. Yeah,
but I mean that's still it's not bad.
Yeah,
at all. This strange curve shape to this one here, but the one on the top, but the one on the bottom. That's how big is that?
Oh, probably 8 inches.
Okay, so not huge.
No. I think we have found an area where, and definitely after the last time we went out, where very, very defined footprints, a good V, tapered heel. I mean, all the classic hallmarks of what they say to look for, but they're just smaller. I think they're adolescents.
Well, it's actually Carrie a couple weeks ago, had mentioned that he thought the juveniles had kind of a narrow heel, kind of widens out. And that's when, after I watched that, when we found that one,
Absolutely.
that you can't get any more perfect V than that.
Only because that's what I had seen myself. Mark Zansky and I found some of those too. If you're talking about us talking about that a few shows ago.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Have you gone out with Mark Zansky?
For 3 months. Very first thing I ever did.
Well,
probably
I like him.
Probably at the time I would have said that's the worst thing I could have ever done was go out there and be around them. But I've since then decided to turn my darkest hour into something, my greatest moments, and that's doing this. So because of that dark hour, we're here, and so that was all part of that. So it's a good thing that I did go out with him and learn that's not what I need to be doing. Right. Not that I don't think I could do it. I think I could do it and probably be decent at it. But that's not what I was meant to do in it. I was meant to do this and make the films and tell the story. I believe that because no one was doing
I can't
that.
imagine your encounter. I mean, my son, he saw something, for a couple of seconds. Obviously, I mean, I'm telling you, he's changed since that happened. A couple of weeks after it, I was worried about him. I was going to take him to the doctor. I can't imagine what you saw. And if I saw what you saw, I probably wouldn't go out the woods again.
Well, I didn't find him. He came to me.
Yeah.
That was the really terrifying part of it for me, and not trying to get into my encounter. But think about the things that you guys have seen and been around and heard. I experienced all those things. I heard things and I would talk to whoever I thought was somebody. I had interactions with them. I just had no clue what it was. At least you're aware of what it was. And for 7 years, all these things, probably so many things I forgot about of interactions we had, that I just think they knew who I was. They knew me well enough to do what he did that day because I had crossed the line and they were fed up. Like I said, I think they tried to run me out of there several other times, and I just didn't realize what was going on. I was too stupid to know what was up.
Well, in the short period of time that we've been going down there, we've had rocks thrown at us. We've seen red eyes. We've had tree knocks. We've had owls.
The same stuff that was happening to the Sasquatch team on his game camera. The cross sticks.
Yeah, that was
freaky.
About a month ago, he bought a really, really, really nice game cam, and he wanted to set up a game cam. And me and Terry were like, yeah, okay. So we were like going to humor him. So we were going to go down there. I didn't think we'd get anything. But he's actually a better hunter than I am. So we go down there. He picks a spot and, goes down there and puts it on the tree. And we go home. We start getting a series of pictures over a week. And he'd email us, hey, got another one. And there would be little dark figures in the pictures day and night, around. But we wouldn't see anything. And this is really remote. I'm telling you, nobody was in there. So finally, about a week later, we go, let's go back up there and move that camera. And he goes, okay, let's go. We get back up there. We tromp down in there. I mean, we're talking water this deep and kind of a swampy little area. And we get up to the tree and we face the tree. And there's that friggin' cross, 2 tree limbs crossed and laid at the base of that tree.
And not just tree limbs, broken off pieces of stick about this long.
Snapped.
Crossed.
And they were purposely placed, and they were not there a week earlier.
For the picture's sake, I'll say this, getting those random pictures and nothing being there, yes, we made sure there was no limbs and cleared it out. I took time and made sure there was nothing that would set this camera off unless it was, something.
So they were, either some hunter trapped back down in there and did this, or they did it.
We would have saw.
Right.
It had to come from behind the tree to lay the sticks on there.
Yeah.
And
I sent you that picture.
I've got, I'll have to go through. I found this one, but real quick, any clue what that's about?
I didn't think, we'd heard a little bit about that, but James was like, hey, there's this other couple down in the general area, a little further down than where we're at. Called the Squash Team. You need to watch them. And, kind of what you were hinting at earlier, Carrie. A lot of people have opinions. A lot of people feel the need to get on the internet and talk about them. Most of them I'm not really interested in. But so I fire this, and I watch them a little bit, but it's not till Nate shows me that picture. I remember that, and I start watching it again on, and it's the same way. And I'm like,
I've heard that.
Wow. Now I'm floored.
And I'll tell you what else. When we went up to the cemetery about 2 weeks ago, we walked up the hill. That little that goes up to the top of the cemetery. It's not that high up there, about 200 feet up there. Mm-hmm. But it takes about 5 minutes to walk up there. We walk up there. We look around. We honestly not much here. We saw one grave kind of by a tree. We take a few pictures. We start walking back down the hill, and I'm in print mode, so I'm constantly looking on that red dirt, looking for prints. And we walk by a plain area, and there are 2 red feathers that are laid perfectly side by side right on the trail. And I went, wow, those weren't there. Well, they kind of like, what? I took a picture of it. I picked the 2 red feathers up. Then we went back and watched one of their videos where they're talking about more active of a Squash Team. Yeah. She says, they left me 2 red feathers. And that was, like you said, not very far away here in Oklahoma. What does it mean? I don't know. I know those 2 red feathers were not there when we walked up that hill, and they were perfectly laid on the trail where we would find them going down. And then they mentioned the exact same thing. They were leaving them the turtles, the dolls and stuff. And she goes, oh, yeah, and the 2 red feathers. So I don't know what that means.
So I don't know if it's like we see you, or is it warning others away?
That's something. That's 2 different
drives
places.
Me nuts because
he's no fun when he gets like this.
It drives me nuts because I'm like, I've got investigative experience from law enforcement because I worked as an investigator, and I want to go be there when these things happen so my investigative stuff can actually do me some good and I can start looking around for clues.
Right.
And these guys are telling me this stuff all the time, and it's like they never, it's like they're so fascinated by the fact that that's there, and I'm like, I would be so fascinated by trying to find where the other stuff is. It's like, it's frustrating.
Interestingly enough, the best webcast I saw on casting prints, because I've never done it before, was actually a forensic scientist on how to cast human prints, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
We were, another group that's not even here. My daughter, who lives in Colorado, came down not too long ago. Her and her boyfriend. And of course, she's a little younger than Nathan, and she hears about it all. She says, "Oh, I want to go. I want to go." And like, no, honey, you don't want to go there. No, I want to go. I want to go. So finally, about 10:30 at night, I'm like, "Y'all want to go? We'll go. We'll stay in the truck. We're not getting out of the truck." So we drove up there, and we drove all the way in the back. We came back through, and we got out of the truck in this really dark, dense area. So y'all just stand right by the truck with flashlights. And they started throwing rocks at us. And they were hitting the trees about 10 to 15 feet from us. You could tell they were big rocks coming, pow, through two rocks. And then one hit something metal. And then another one hit a tree. So it was 4 total rocks. And we couldn't figure, what is it that, well, we went down there a couple weeks ago. Now all the vines are dead. It's all dead and brown. You could see there was a sign there, like a no trespassing sign or no, do not hunt sign. And they had hit that sign and it had vibrated. And that was probably 30 feet from us in the dark, where they were throwing rocks at us. So we've had everything happen down there.
I want to say this real quick. My co-host Brad, he's he just got done. He's watching now. He sent me a text and he said, "I wonder if the 2 feathers were put down there just to see if you would notice."
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to tell this, but I'll tell it. Hey, we're already into it.
Real quick, before you do that, I want to get too far away from this. I want to show these real quick.
Okay.
So
yes, that's so after I filmed the trackway on the sandbar by myself down there, and I was walking back out, there's that print. Now you can see my boot print walking the other way.
Right.
You can see my boot in the screen. My boot's a size 12. Well, actually, my foot's 10.5, but I get the size 12 because it's easier to get on and off the boot. And these boots are pretty brand new. They're about a month old. And then there's that print. That print was not there when I walked down to the river. I would have seen it, trust me.
Because that's what you were looking for, were prints.
Yeah, because look at that sand. It's perfect, right?
Exactly.
And so whatever left that print was there while I was down on the riverbed, probably 100 yards away.
You'd almost stepped on it otherwise.
Yes.
And I wear square tip boots too, by the way. So I like
them. I actually don't like them, but you can't get anything else in. Anyway.
West Texas, that's all you're going to get. So now, before you get into what you're going to get into, we will be taking questions from the chat here in just a little bit. I want to let everybody know that I am about halfway through Mark Copeland's Odyssey. I've been doing a lot of things the holidays. I don't want to make excuses, but there's a lot to it. There's a lot going on there having to go through. So I'm going to make an excuse for myself, and I'll get this thing out when I get it out. But I am working on it when I can work on it. Just want to let you guys know that. But I am going to be taking questions here shortly. So get those ready. Make sure you put them in caps, because that's all I'm going to be looking for on here. Or is anything that's in caps. And if I happen to miss, there's a lot of people here. So if I happen to miss your question, I apologize. It's not intentional. So go ahead, James.
Mallory's watching.
Yeah, I know. I told her we were going to. So the feathers. All right. So this is not real woo woo, but I am telling you, Gene or Chuck, he's been in police, force, and there's the submarines and in the military. My brother's an engineer. I'm an analyst. I'm a data analyst. That's what I do. I analyze, and I see things that other people may not see. When we had our sighting, and after we got over the, and Nathan went and got, shotgun out of the car. Okay, we're armed. We kind of regrouped back at the truck. Truck's in the middle of the road. we start talking about what happened, and we were just kind of rerunning it back to our mind. Well, I was over here. Where were you? Okay, I was over here. Well, where were you? So I go, well, I was right over here. And I walk over there and I stand and I'm kind of like showing him I was right here. And I look down, and on the dirt road is a big white feather about this long, brand new. And I look all down the road, no the white feather. Look at the ditch, no the white feather. Real quick, I look around and I reached down and picked it up because this is right where I was. I turned to him and I go, now where were you? I didn't say anything. And he was on the road and he walked down into the creek and kind of walked right up to the water. And he goes, I was right here. And I walked over there and stood behind him and I looked down and there was another white feather. So I picked it up and put it in the truck. And I thought maybe the same thing, because after this, it all happens, we, kind of regrouped and then we left, we turned around and we came back and then we were like, let's film this. So we left for a few minutes and turned around, went down the end of the thing. And, he wanted to get some Copenhagen and we just want to kind of, regroup for a minute. We turn around and come back. And that's when we went, okay, now where were you again? So I don't know. I kind of thought, well, why would they do that? That seems strange, but I know there was no other white feathers anywhere in that field. I walked around for a few minutes. Somehow those two white feathers showed up the exact places we were standing. I think, yeah, they left those red feathers because the trail going down through the cemetery is very smooth, where somebody had driven a tractor up there and was sliding, so that it's very smooth. And it was, a little area about like that size of a tire. And you're walking down through the middle of the tread and you look down, they're laying right in the smooth area. They were side by side about that far apart, two red feathers. Yeah, I picked them up, but it wasn't until I watched that other, video where she said up in the antlers, yep, they left us two red feathers.
Sheila.
Wow.
Sheila, yeah.
So
and that doesn't have to be woo woo. I'm like I said, I'm doing this Mark Copeland one, and there's some strange light thing going on there that I'm going to show it. It's something that's there. He doesn't talk about it, but I'm going to do a segment about some of the things that he sent me that he doesn't really talk about, and they're just weird. I don't know. You can't explain it. I'm going to put it out there. People decide for themselves. So, all right, you guys ready for some questions? Let's take a few.
Sure.
And then
Absolutely.
then we will wrap this thing up.
That's a good question.
There's several. What animal are the feathers from? A bird.
It was.
I'm just kidding there.
The cardinal feathers. They were cardinal feathers.
Cardinal feathers. Okay, so they were red, super red.
Yeah.
I don't know if I missed.
Yeah. It just seemed odd. I know we would have seen them coming up. We weren't up there more than 5 minutes, and we walked back down.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks for not making me look, Jared. Appreciate it. Jared's one of our moderators. These guys do such a great job of maintaining the integrity of our chat. We appreciate them. Absolutely. We appreciate you, Jared, but you didn't have to do that. Thanks. Thanks for that. Looking for a question.
Yeah, it says that he feathers at his house all the time.
Wonder Woman says, Miss Lynette, did you see the face of the white Bigfoot?
It was far enough away. You didn't really see it. It was, just kind of, it had some features to it, but you really couldn't see it. It was far enough away.
Did you see the one at the fence?
The one at the fence was more distinct. It had, of course, it was pretty much hair on the face a bit, but you could see the eyes and the nose, the mouth. It kind of protruded a little bit. The eyes were sunk in and just had real big features, facial features. The head was very big and stuff. Now, the white one, the head was big, but you really couldn't see any features because it was far enough away.
Wow.
And you mentioned before, especially with the black one, that when it finally stood up, it was the breath that really got you.
Yeah, it was huge. When it stood up, it was already probably about 3 foot above the barbed wire fence to begin with. And when it stood up, it was just, it looked like a refrigerator. He's just massive. And when it stood up, it had to have been 10 foot or so. It just 9 to 10 foot. It was huge. And it had very muscular, very big arms, and the face was pretty distinct. I mean, and he was looking at the kitchen window. I mean, he was just looking straight at us. So
that's just creeps me out when I think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Lee 3PO, Red River Cryptid, as a researcher, are you hoping to get the ultimate evidence to prove Sasquatch exists? What's the end goal here? What do you guys want to do?
I already know. You know, I'm on Instagram. I have 200 groups on my Instagram, and by the way, that's to me the best way to take in information because you can quickly go through it, see a picture, see. But I know there's 500 teams now across the United States that are doing this every weekend with GoPros and thermals, and it's just it's not going to be us.
The one thing though, for me, I want to prove it to myself. I'm not out to prove it to anybody else. If I prove it to myself, then I will share that information with the rest of the people.
And that's what I started out doing. Is just we were curious, we were interested, and we're just trying to prove it to ourselves. I mean, I don't have a website. I don't have channel. I'm just a fan like everybody else.
But because of your interest and your willingness to get your butt up off the couch and go out there and look at what you've gotten already. And I'm glad. Yeah. I'll tell you, I'll guarantee you, everybody watching this is glad you're out there doing it. I'm so glad. My hat's off to you guys for being out there doing it. And there may be 500 people out there doing it. Regardless, you're doing it. More people need to be doing this. We need to have more interest in the subject. And like I said, it's because of your interest. And to me, that is such a rare thing for people that haven't had experience, that just saw this thing, considered the possibility, and got out there and did it. I'm proud.
Yeah, we just want to be in the club, just be in the club of people that are interested in trying. And
well, my wife's seen one and I haven't. I mean, come on, I can't live that down forever. I've got to see one myself.
You got to get out there, Chet. You got to go do it. So what are you guys going to do a YouTube channel? Are you going to start putting information out for people to
if we can find something, because to James's point, we talk about this a lot too. I mean, a certain very popular show for a while with a very kind of highly opinionated individual kind of ruined a lot of it but if we find something interesting, we're researchers by trade. So if we find something that's interesting, we might want to share. Absolutely.
I think your show actually rejuvenated it. Sasquatch Chronicles, Mountain Beast Mysteries. You guys you kind of rejuvenated all this, and it's away from television. The quality is really good.
Or brought legitimacy back to it. It wasn't a commercial endeavor. It wasn't played.
It really is good. I don't. If we do all that, Nathan kind of, take it. I don't know. If we get some good evidence,
we have a channel, but
for me, that's dedication. That's something else to do. That's not work. Hey, I tell them when I go, I'm the comic relief. I mean, I'm coming up with ideas. They're looking at me and going, "You're going to get us killed," and I'm like, "No, trust me. This is going to get us some action here."
I think the thing that turns me off is that I am, I'm single. I have all the time in the world. They don't. I can watch 3 or 4 hours a night of this type of stuff. I can read books, and the thing that I get from you guys is it's brutal. I mean, it's brutal. And people are made fun of, people get on the channel, they go, I'm not interested in all that. I've seen what you guys have gone through, and I know I'm not any different, and I'm not going to have any patience for that. So I don't know. We'll just see.
Look, I just hold solace that there's not a single one of those people that are ever going to come and tell me those things to my face. Yeah. So I just kind of hold solace in that, and I pray for them. I'll say a prayer for them. That I'm serious. I'm serious. That's what I'll do. I'll say a prayer for them that they'll find just a little bit of tolerance in their heart. And we ask everyone to do that. If someone is just after you and lambasting you for something you're doing in this subject, pray that they actually do understand one day.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. And like I said, they're not ever going to come tell me that to my face. I just I'll take solace in that. Here we go. Miss Diane Fowler. Lynette, did you and your sisters ever hear tree knocks nearby? You ever hear any knocking around there?
Yeah. We would hear knocks every once in a while. We had a den of coyotes in the back. of our property down there. They had a den of them. We would hear coyotes go off, and then we'd hear them mimicking them. We'd hear something mimicking coyotes. But yeah, you'd hear tree knocks, stuff like that.
Do you think that they're knocking on trees? Because I'm kind of asserting that they're doing it with their mouth, maybe, because are they just toting sticks around all the time, knocking on trees?
I don't know. Don't know. They could be, they could not be. Actually, and I was telling them this earlier, where we live now, or where I stay in up there, we were I was outside letting the dog out and everything before I went to bed, and I heard some coyotes going off, and they were a pack of them, and you'll hear them out there because it's a real rural area, even though I live in town now. And then I heard some donkeys, braying and stuff, and I was like, that's kind of odd. And we were working on something, and there was a 2x4 laying there, so I just kind of picked it up, and I thought, well, I'll see. So I hit the post about 3 times, and then I stopped, and it was quiet. I mean, dead quiet out there. And all of a sudden, I heard 3 knocks. Now, if they do it with their mouth, if they do it with whatever, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And so I got the dog in, we went in the house, and that was the end of the day, So it was,
That's
only
pretty
reason
recent, though, isn't it? Isn't that pretty recent, that theory about the teeth of maybe the last year or two? It seems to be getting more popular. I didn't hear it before then. I'm not saying I don't believe. I go, okay, maybe. But what I've heard, we've got on recordings, we've got tree knocks on recordings down there. It sounds like a 2x4 up against an oak tree. I mean, that's what it sounds like. But it could be teeth,
The only reason I say that is because I know people that can do that pretty loud. I mean, I can't do it, but my talents are limited, especially in in that area.
Yeah.
I can't do that. But I know people that can do that really loud, and who knows? Maybe it just made more sense to me that they weren't toting a stick around all the time to beat on something that they would, that's a motion that could give them away, possibly that they were probably doing it with their mouth. Who knows? You'd have to see.
They break a lot of trees, though, so maybe that's kind of their entertainment.
Could be. There you go. I think any sentient being is gonna have some kind of entertainment for sure. But let's tell you what. Let's take one more, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Mr. Ern Harvick, good to see you back, sir. Do you think television delegitimized Bigfoot research? This is a good question. This is for everybody, by the way. We'll make the roll.
It seems like every little, the local stations, you watch the little Channel 7, or Channel 5 in Tennessee, or, the little station says, Mr. Brown thinks he saw a Bigfoot on the edge of town. They immediately start making fun of it.
Sure.
Because it's just in their playbook. I think some of the shows, I won't mention them, but I think some of the shows that became popular.
Finding Bigfoot. I'll mention them.
Interesting.
I think they did.
Everybody knows our show anyway.
Today, while we were driving, I was listening to a podcast where, Bobo Fay from Finding Bigfoot, he was talking about the whole process of how they produced those shows and how he was really upset with a lot of the things that
I think he's legit.
Well, because he said that whenever they shoot those shows for like National Geographic or Discovery Channel or anything like that, that those companies aren't actually making the shows. They're contracting these producers and production teams to do it, and they're sending, clips and all their footage to them, and they're cutting stuff out. And he said that there was multiple times where they cut stuff out, or they'd be in the middle of an investigation and they'd be hearing stuff, and there's camera people running around trying to get pictures of the reactions. And that's all.
I think so, but I think you guys are bringing it back.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I've listened to 200, Sasquatch Chronicles. He's listened to probably all 500 or 600. And after I think you guys are bringing it back and putting legitimacy to it. And I do respect How to Hunt. He has a different way. But
Dixie Cryptids.
Yeah, oh yeah, I think you guys are bringing it back.
Well, let's face it, too. The more research you have that's legitimate science, the more people are going to actually take it seriously. You have a bunch of people going out there in the woods, and then, I mean, anybody can do that. But when you start applying science and say, hey, we're actually measuring footprints, and that's one thing I always tell James when he's taking a picture of a footprint. I said, if you don't have any kind of a reference in there, that picture is no good at all. I said that has no value to it at all. I said you have to have something to show what the scale of that is.
Right. We had a guy on here, was a few weeks ago. He's
Dr. Melder.
No, after that. He's part of the Lost Cryptids. He was on Late Show with us, and he showed a picture, an 18-inch track, and the picture just didn't do it justice. He holds the track cast up and it covered the whole screen. It was massive. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I talk to so many people. It's just a few shows. Just a few shows ago. Yeah, a really, really great guy, and it's on the tip of my brain. I can't think of it. But look, I really appreciate you guys coming on here. I definitely want to get you back talking about some more of your stuff. There's no way we can fit it all in, an hour and a half long show, obviously. But would love to get you back when I've got my help with me. My co-host Brad, who's with the family. Hope you're watching, Brad.
Yeah.
But thank you all for coming on here with us tonight. Want to do a couple of shout outs real quick. Iron Dogger, who I saw in the chat here earlier, she has a YouTube channel. And if you want a good chuckle, I don't know, this one video she did, it's her 50 subscriber video. Very funny stuff, but go check that out. I think she's up in Alaska and does some pretty funny videos about Bigfoot and things. So go check her out. I'm going to be doing a show with Wes Germer tomorrow. He's going to put it on his channel. It's just going to be kind of, I'm not going to give too much away, but we're going to do that. But once he puts that out, he's going to send it to me and I'll put it out on Bigfoot Odyssey too. So, that's coming out. I'm working on the Mark Copeland. A lot too many Marks in this Odyssey. And we've got 2 more coming soon. As soon as we can get down to Florida and shoot with Donnie Miller and Mark and Melanie Zansky, we'll get those 2 done. So more stuff's coming. We're getting there, and we appreciate the people that come on here and tell their stories and talk about their experiences, and because you're giving to all of us, and we can't thank you enough for that. So Red River Cryptid, James, Nate, Terry, Lynette, Gene, thank you guys all for showing up here. It's been fantastic. Thank you to all of our donors, the people that keep us going. We appreciate you guys. Big Rick, you're the man.